Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BD40 coming at you with another video. All right, I want to talk about this Wack 100 situation because I've been following it. I made a video prior to watching the 3-hour 6ix9ine interview with Wack Academics and Wack 100, and the video that I had made was just basically saying that I thought it would be worthy content to watch. I thought that Wack 100 would be a good person to have sitting next to. Um, 6ix9ine, asking certain types of questions because of his background, because of what his affiliations are, and I felt like if anybody had um, been someone who would be qualified to ask him whatever needs to be asked, it would be Wack 100, and I thought that would be something that would be good for someone like myself who's not really a part of anything, don't have any affiliations like that, not outside like that. Just give us an understanding of how he's looking at it, 6ix9ine's point of view, and all of that. You know what I mean? Just wanted to know why he did what he did, how he views what he did, what his point of view is on some of the things that took place. Is he going to give us more information other than what's already out there? Elaborate on some things, give us some context. I was curious about the story, as just like everyone else. So for me, it was just like, well, this is worthy. I'd rather him sit down and ask some questions than academics ask some questions himself. I'd rather and I'd rather hear from the horse's mouth what's going on, because there's been a whole lot of speculation, a whole lot of information in regards to what the courts say, but again, no context from the horse's mouth. So that was my point of view. I watched the interview, and it's been like 2.5 weeks since I seen the interview, so I'm not going to sit here and try to break apart the interview. I'm not going to sit here and say I retained the entire thing in my head like that. But what I gathered from the situation, just in that room, was that 6ix9ine has a gripe with selective politicking as it pertains to street politics, surrounding his circumstance, surrounding the people that he was involved with and everything. He just doesn't like how some people can get away with what he considers snitching with his same type of affiliation in the streets. He felt like some of these other celebrities, some of these other people that get a lot of support and praise, have some of the same stuff on their paperwork that he had. Some of the same things, similar situations of talking to the police, talking to the feds, talking to whomever, being a snitch more or less. He said there's some other people out there are snitches, and they don't get the same type of vitriol. They don't get the same type of attention. They don't get all that that comes with it. And he's tired of it, and that's kind of fueling him at this point. That singular idea that stuff is applied to him don't get applied to other people. It's just kind of what's fueling this go round. But it wasn't a whole lot to learn. One thing that I did say is that I just was reminded of how intelligent the young fella is, as it pertains to being able to control a room, as it pertains to being able to use analogies to kind of get his point across. I don't think people always understand his communication style as it pertains to how he communicates, because one thing that I noticed that he does a whole lot, is when he's talking to someone and he's trying to make a point, he'll ask you a question, and then he'll take from that question, like how old are you or something like that, then he'll take from that question the basis of his analogy. And a lot of times when he's trying to communicate, I've noticed both in the video and previous other things that I've seen him in, is that a lot of times in those type of communications, in those type of conversations rather, the people he's talking to aren't really interested in giving him information, and they don't see where he's going with things. But the thing that stood out the most for me in regards to the interview is just that example and several other examples where communication kind of tells the story of how, an interpretation kind of tells the story of how people are perceiving what he did, how he perceives what he did, how Wack views what he did, how Wack excuses standing next to him. Because a lot of what I've been seeing has been more or less Wack trying to convince some of the people who are offended by the interview, a lot of whom didn't watch the interview. He's trying to use his understanding and his point of view and his political definition of snitching. He's trying, it seems, to, and I use the word justify as only as a means of displaying the thought that I'm giving. but he's trying to justify to those people who are conflicting what it is he's saying, who are arguing against what he's doing, that it's okay for him to do it based on the street rules of 6ix9ine not being a civilian out here, or rather being a civilian by definition in the West Coast. That is up for debate based on me living out here and knowing some people who have a slightly different point of view as it pertains to that. And I think that's what gets lost in translation. One thing that I've come to understand about this entire situation is that Wack 100 doesn't view 6ix9ine as a snitch, and because of it, he can justify sitting next to him, standing next to him, or what have you. And in the East Coast, the people who are upset are saying the opposite. That's really what it comes down to. 6ix9ine's gang affiliation is not valid as it pertains to the perception of Wack 100. And because of it, Wack does not have any problem whatsoever aligning himself business-wise within this situation. Now, while they were sitting there on that 3-hour interview, a business opportunity arrived for Wack 100. I don't know if it was on the fly. I doubt it. I'm pretty sure conversations going on behind the scenes. But more or less a business opportunity where Wack 100's artists, Blueface and 6ix9ine, are basically agreed to on camera a boxing match, a celebrity boxing match, which is a lot, makes a lot of money for a lot of people right now in the celebrity community. So that is going to keep them in business going forward as it pertains to working on that fight. Now, from the end of the interview on, what we saw was Wack 100 get on Clubhouse. Now, Clubhouse is an application that allows people to talk to one another, kind of get in the rooms and chat, just like the old chat rooms from when I was a kid. Only you're not calling on the phone; you're hopping on this app. So Clubhouse is a big deal. Although it's been a big deal in the past, it kind of died off over the last, say, year or so. Has picked up over the last 3 weeks because of these characters. So you got a bunch of stuff going on where people are getting on this app and communicating with one another in ways that otherwise they wouldn't on a public forum. And Wack 100 has gotten on this app. We've seen 21 Savage, who is affiliated, I believe, with the company, which is why he continues to find himself in the conversations he was in. I believe that's what I gathered, that he's kind of like contractually or promotionally obligated some way to Clubhouse. So that's kind of why he was in the room, kind of getting involved. I'm not really certain what 21's involvement is as it pertains to 6ix9ine, other than they were in a club together or something like that. And now I guess people were saying to 21 Savage, you don't stand for that snitch stuff. You've called out 6ix9ine in the past. Why didn't you, when you were there at the club, do something, basically? Why didn't you address 6ix9ine directly? And, from that notion, that information, that, how do you say that seed that was planted kind of fueled him to kind of go at Wack 100, I think. I mean, more or less it came down to that. And it ended up getting to kind of a shouting match that got a little out of hand. But I guess they had a conversation there in the space where they agree with one another. But even more so was more conversations being had that were of the same tone between some of the folks on the East Coast side of things as it pertains to 6ix9ine's situation. Some of those guys hopped on Clubhouse and actually were having these conversations in these rooms with Wack 100, just basically asking Wack 100 why he thought it was legitimate to sit next to 6ix9ine, and then from there, why he thought it was legitimate to bring up Jim Jones in the conversation. Now, during the 3-hour interview, Jim Jones's name came up, but from what I remember, what I recall correctly, and Jim Jones is a rap artist, Diplomat Flame, hangs out with Cameron and them. He's one of those guys if you're not familiar. But yeah, he's in this situation because I guess he was one of the main characters in the past. It was some wire recording of some sort. I'm not really sure what the context of the wire recording, but basically he was talking to another individual by the name of Mel Murder, one of the main big-time bloods in the East Coast, one of the main figureheads and leaders over there in regards to the situation that 6ix9ine found himself a part of, in regards to the set that 6ix9ine found himself around and be a part of, so to speak. He was on a wiretap just basically communicating with Jim Jones, and Jim Jones was suggesting to him loosely how to get security away from 6ix9ine, because obviously 6ix9ine's an enemy of theirs, and they would love to get their hands on him at that time. Now this is years ago, I guess. I'm guessing this happened back when everything was real hot, about 2 years ago. The wiretap, from what I understand, was just basically something that it's now public record. It's been out there for a while. I had heard it prior to this situation myself personally, so that wasn't new for me. But apparently a lot of people hadn't heard about it, so it kind of made it so that Jim Jones is put into position to have to defend his name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And because of it, some of his friends are not very happy about that. Why was this brought up? If Mel Murda, the person who was on the wiretap, didn't say anything in regards to Jim Jones being a snitch and everything, if he ain't coming out saying it's a problem in regards to this wiretap that he and Jim Jones are both on, why is this being brought up now? He should not be labeled a snitch in any way, shape, or form. He was recorded. He wasn't doing the recording. However that played out, I don't know the specifics of that situation. But from looking at it from afar, essentially what Wack 100's response to that was, when 6ix9ine was in the interview, the 3-hour interview, he didn't allow 6ix9ine to kind of bring that up. He didn't allow that conversation to go forward because he didn't have the information, because he was someone who's loosely affiliated with Jim Jones outside, and he did not feel as if, because he hadn't heard the wiretap, he didn't know prior to sitting down anything about the wiretap, he didn't want 6ix9ine to play it, and he regretted it. He regretted it after the interview, he says. So he got on the camera himself, away from Clubhouse on his own, and just started kind of addressed it, which I thought was a bizarre aspect of the situation. I didn't really see how that could be productive in this situation. From my point of view, when he got on the camera and started asking about Jim Jones' situation, asking Jim Jones to defend his name, why haven't you come out and said anything about this wiretap? The kid is calling you a snitch, the kid being 6ix9ine, why haven't you said that? I just don't know why Wack 100 would get on camera and kind of request that information and ask those questions directly of Jim Jones. I just felt like that was the type of situation where people could start looking at you and say, okay, what is your real intentions here? This has nothing to do with the app. So if you're contractually, tied to the app in some way, and you got to keep the hype going to keep those energy going in there to bring attention to the app, we totally understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Anything that goes on in that 3-hour interview in regards to that kid and academics makes a lot of sense, because of course you're trying to keep the views high on that and make that be quality. So anything that goes on there, I'm understanding it. Anything that happens on Clubhouse, even though it's crazy, to an extent, I still see a bag attached to that. What I don't understand was that excerpt where he's sitting there asking Jim Jones to speak up about his situation. He said it was his conscience basically messing with him. That's what he said. He felt like he did the wrong thing by not allowing the kid to address it in the 3-hour interview. But that's for a person like myself who looks on the outside looking in. I've lived on this earth for about 37 years. There are things that I know for certain. I can't say for a fact because I don't know for a fact, but I know for certain that you have to turn your conscience away from certain things. Certain things you are going to be aware of, your conscience is going to tell you to do something about it, and because of your affiliations, you're going to have to turn away. Why would this be any different? That's what I was saying from the outside looking in. Like, why are you straight up doing 6ix9ine's bidding? You know that's his enemy. You know this is his fight. Why are you allowing him to drag you into his situation? That's my point of view in regards to that particular part of the conversation. I just don't know why he's doing that. I really don't. It don't make no sense, bro. And from the outside looking in, if I were on the other side of it, I would be wondering who you are talking to, who is talking to you, and who put you up to this. That's what I would be doing. And so it's just gotten to a point where I think a lot of people who've been watching this situation are looking at Wack and saying, yo, you've gone too far. These young kids, they're not looking to play fair at all. If you follow how they move, the generation underneath me, These kids in their 20s who are really affiliated, they're not looking to play fair at all. They're going to have people coming at you from different directions. You don't even see where they're coming from. Like, as they say, the back door is open. Yeah. Nah, this ain't the generation to play with in that way, in my opinion. There's a lot of talk about civilians, what civilians can say, what civilians cannot say. Within these conversations I've been paying attention to on Clubhouse, listening to what people are talking about a civilian's place and all of that, I get what they're saying, but the problem that I'm listening to is the definition of what a civilian is, what a gangster is, what it takes to be a gangster. Is too many different interpretations of these different things. You got all these people got different definitions of what it means to be all of these things and different rules about how it works, but all of them are trying to work along the same plane as it pertains to we all want to be on the same page with this, but we all don't have the same definitions. The foundation for this to go well, people are going to have to understand that aspect of it. It's like, look, Wack 100 is justifying what he's doing because in his world, the definition of a snitch is not that, so therefore he's standing next to those dudes. However he chooses to do so for however long he does, because there was a thing about is he running with 6ix9ine or not. At this point, it's long past even mattering, and I think that's what I think a lot of people are going to try to explain to Wack in this conversation. Some of his people, if I'm a guessing, man, that's kind of along the message that I think people want, who care about Wack, want them to understand. Is like, dog, it does not matter how you interpret what the truth is from where you're at. You're dealing with people who have a different definition, and because of it, they have people that are involved in this situation. They got their own interests wrapped up in whatever it is that's going on. They have to put forth their own face, and the politics going on over there is not something to stir up for no reason, or even for a decent reason. It's not something to stir up, especially when we know how New York is policed. We know how New York gangs are policed. It's suspicious when you're asking someone who's affiliated with New York gangs to identify who they are and where they're from. That is something I heard Wack do more than once to those dudes on Clubhouse. Another thing that's going to make people look at him and say, bro, who are you with and why are you talking this way? Because you know that over there, they can't do that. As soon as one of them say anything about, yep, that's us, everybody gets rounded up on a RICO charge. We all know that. They would be wise to never, ever confirm their affiliations. And that's coming from somebody from the outside looking in who's been seeing how they operate out there for a long, long, long time, since the Biggie days. They don't play around like some of these other places as it pertains to, if you do something and you're affiliated with someone else, you're going to get the same punishment they get. They are big on that in that state. And I just don't understand. Couple that with the gun laws, I don't understand why anybody would play any games out there. I don't get it. And for somebody out here who spends enough time out there, as he does, who knows the politics out there, it just seems to me that in understanding that and still stirring it up anyway, it just looks like either you're doing the bidding of someone else or you're on a death wish mission, like you looking to do suicide by a gangster. Like, that's what it looked like to me as a person looking from afar. I'm like, well, Wack said he's 44 years old. They think he's older than that. It doesn't matter. The point is, he's too old to be rumbling and going to war with these youngsters, bro, over stuff that don't have nothing to do with nothing. At the end of the day, whatever they got going on in their politics is theirs. You said yourself, Wack 100, you don't acknowledge red rags from over there. You said that. I'm a civilian. I respectfully say all of this. I don't pick no sides or nothing. I'm just trying to put two and two together so I know where I stand. If you say you don't acknowledge them and what they do, and then at the same time kind of sitting down while you're speaking to academics saying you know who Jim Jones is affiliated with, so that's why I don't, you know what I'm saying? And it was kind of along the lines of, clearly Jim Jones is wearing the same colors I do, so no, I don't want you to bring that up. As in 6ix9ine bringing up that wiretap that he didn't want to talk about, thing that he said his conscience was messing with him about. So you're going to acknowledge him there and not acknowledge him in other situations. But I'll tell you like this is exactly why I think he did that. For the same reason I just said about a minute and a half ago. They get in different type of trouble. Guy out here can say, I'm from here. Yeah, the cops know him. They know you're from there. They got dossiers on everybody in your hood, and since the beginning of your hood. Out here is just different because the gangs and the affiliations and the way the gangs have been working and the different truces and the whole get down out here is so interwoven and so understood and so overstood. The battles have been long. The corruption underneath it with the police and all of that has been long, ripped up from underneath the carpet. Like, it's so understood out here. Like, right? Gangs and all of that stuff is so very, very, very organized. Like, yeah, the kids act crazy. Some of the kids, yeah, they just do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But there are big homies and other entities out here that kind of clean things up to make sure that it doesn't get to a Chicago point ever again. Because we've been down that road already. We know how bad it gets when it just goes crazy. What ends up happening is everybody dies. That's what happens. Everybody dies, and the only people who are left are the people who want to have peace. That's how that plays out. So to get back to it, if you know that New York is got a different way of doing things, then you can't get on Clubhouse or on your own personal, like I'm doing here, and as an affiliated person, say you don't acknowledge them while still acknowledging them. It just looks all very, very, very suspicious, man. And I say it like this. As a person who is older, I know how it is when you're in debt. I know how it is when you feel like your back is against the wall and the pressure of your finances get to a point and your debt and all of that, or you get into a situation where you have to pay somebody back and it doesn't really matter how you get the money, you just better pay them back. And you find yourself in those situations, you will do things like this. And I'm not saying that's what Wack is involved in, but I'm saying he's doing some really, really wild stuff for a person his age with a family and all of that. The only thing that I would say is this don't feel like no thrill seeking. This feels like the means to an end, or a means to getting something done that has to be done. The energy from Wack 100 is, I know I'm mucking around the dirt. I'm doing what I want to do. But what you want to do is not going to bring you the consequences that you will appreciate if this gets much further than where it is. And I know he's like, I'm ready to crash. He said things online like, I don't expect to get home every day. No. That's your old mentality, bro. These days you wake up in different states. These days you got $1 million deals. These days you are not somebody who you were 20 years ago, and you need not mess with people who were where you were at 20 years ago. Now, stirring them up, making them angry, making them get all in their feelings about things that are really happening. People who are really away from their families. Aligning yourself, however it's viewed, with someone who helped put them in those situations. And his argument, he can always, Wack 100 always has an answer for everything. He say, well, he didn't put him in this situation. Those things were already out there. Those kids were talking. They were talking around people. They had different other things going on that gave them away. You know what I mean? I get that. Everything's on public record. I get that. But here's the problem. You have an answer, an out for everything. You can talk your way out of all of it. Problem is, the people who are angry at you know that. They know you have covered your bases. They know that you can talk your way out of it. They know that by the definitions you live by, you're only skating on the outskirts of what's appropriate and what's not. The problem is they don't really care because they ain't buying it. Just like everybody else, to be completely honest with you, kind of suspicious of it all. As a civilian, I'm suspicious. I'm looking like, what are you doing, bro? And I like what Meek Mill said, even though I don't necessarily always agree with Meek, but I like how he responded to it. He responded to it the way I would if I were in that situation. Hey, we sitting down with Farrakhan. I'm getting around some official people. You're not going to bring me to an emotional space where I'm acting up and ready to crash out. I got too many people who need to feed off me. I got, who need to eat off me. I got too many people in my corner. I got a family. I mean, to be honest with you, as a person on the West Coast, I don't think there's any more good that can be done in this situation for Wack 100. There's no more good to be done. You've raised the questions to make everybody wonder about Jim Jones. I heard what Mano said in regards to Jim Jones's wiretapping. Wayno said something that basically negated the fact that this would ever be a snitching situation. He said that even though Jim Jones's wiretap appears to have led to things happening, that is not what is documented by those who need to document those things. They essentially are saying that whatever happened or is not connected to the wiretap. Now, however else that goes, it's way beyond my understanding. But that is what is being said. Take it for what it's worth. So all in all, if this is not a situation as it appears, if Jim Jones' situation isn't quite like that, it ain't necessarily about Jim Jones to then speak up and defend his name if the people who need to understand what's going on do understand what's going on. Does that make any sense? That's where I'm at with that particular part of the conversation. If Mel and them have an understanding about Jim Jones' position and whatever's going on over there, then we, civilian Brandon, Wack, whatever his status is, over here in the West Coast, probably should not be trying to stir it up to see what'll come about, unless we're on the side of those who would love to see everybody locked away. What you want me to say, man? What you want me to say? Not everything's entertainment, bro. Not everything is entertainment, even though it's entertaining. Real people go to jail. Real children are left without their parents. Real people have real consequences when it comes to this type of entertainment. It just isn't. It's barbaric, y'all. I hate to say it, but we're dealing with barbarian days. We might as well just go to a gladiator arena and watch people sword each other to death for our amusement if we're going to continue down this path. I'm just keep it a buck. That's what we're doing. I'm prayerful, as a civilian, as a prayerful, non-affiliated person. I'm prayerful that those who want peace will receive peace. Those who want safety are safe. You know what I mean, in regards to the situation. But you just cannot stir up the type of mess that's being stirred up here. You cannot align yourself with somebody who appears to be a snitch. Because the people you are convincing yourself, convincing that you're not, the people you're trying to convince, is basically what I'm saying, are not trying to hear it. They don't care. They're not buying it. They're not even halfway listening. See, that's the messed up part about having all these wonderful points. I can talk my way out of anything. Everything I've done is perfect because I've stood right here in the middle of what's appropriate and let all the muck kind of surround me, which is what Wack is tending to say he's doing. I'm not touching the dirt, but the dirt is just floating all the way around me. I'm in the eye of the storm. The storm isn't actually getting me out of here. I'm standing in the middle. I'm fine. Nah, because the people you are offending, the people who are offended by what this appears like, they're not interested in that. They're not buying it, basically. So that's my whole point of view. Nobody gonna listen to what I gotta say because I'm not affiliated, right? I'm nobody. But what I'm saying is, I'm smart enough mind to know when communication is lost and muck is being stirred and people are pissed off and angry and got the emotions and ready to crash out and act a fool. I didn't even mention a gentleman by the name of Trav, who, even though he spoke loud, he was on the Meek. He's one of Meek's homies. Even one of these, he spoke loud. His personality was not that of somebody who's easy to have a conversation with, right? I get that, but that didn't mean that his point of view was the wrong one. I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, however you perceive what it is that Wack is doing, it does look suspicious to a guy like Trav on the other side of it, whose friends are involved in all this, who don't know why Wack is all up in this conversation other than maybe some previous stuff that they had going on with something else that they talked about. Maybe that took place 6-7 years ago. Maybe they had a run-in of some sort. I don't know. I can't confirm that. Wack said they didn't. Trav said they did. Maybe that's where their situation stems at, but I just don't understand. As a person looking at this, I don't understand why Wack 100 would ever allow himself to even be to appear to be seen aligned business-wise or any other way with someone who's perceived to be snitch. It don't make no sense. Out of all the people I've known, they would not align themselves. There are other bags to get. You see what I'm saying? There are other ways to get that money. You don't have to do a deal with the devil to get his bag. There got to be a better way. And I know the devil brings a lot of attention. The dude is one of the 6'9". I call him the devil because it's exactly what he seemed like, a little Satan. Every time he come around, he manipulates everything and everyone around him to do his bidding. It is what it is. This is what I've observed. I'm not judging it. That's what he's doing. The moment he got back into the public eye, he surrounded himself with more red gang members that would do his bidding, that would stand in front of him and his enemies. And my thing is, Wack knows that. I don't think Wack is oblivious to that thought. That's why I think there's some desperation taking place for somebody who's controlling the situation, because Wack knows this is what's going on here. And everybody can see that. If Wack could see what was going on in New York, he could certainly see what's happening to him. You were involved in the same type of situation. Now, maybe you believe you can handle it better, but let me tell you, this kid is still throwing you at people. That's what's happening. He is aiming you at his enemies. And most importantly, he's standing behind you as a shield. I mean, like I said, you could talk your way out of that. You could stand in the eye of a storm and not get touched by all the dirt, but eventually something's going to fly in your eye, bro. Something is going to touch you. You can't lay down with dogs and not get up with fleas. It's cause and effect. That's all I got to say, man. I know I didn't really give y'all the best rundown of everything, because like I said, this stuff don't stay in my head like that. And I've seen and heard hours and hours of footage of these individuals, just like most of us have, because this has been the most entertaining thing of the last 2 weeks. It's just my point of view on it. Wack looks suspicious, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I'm from LA, Hollywood, California. So I know there are a lot of people who mess with Wack. They love him. He is putting himself in a position to make people question what his intentions are. And I am concerned. As a civilian watching from the outside looking at, I'm concerned that he may be in way too far over his head as it pertains to what he's doing. Way too far. That's just my own personal opinion. My name is BDO44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.